All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into an idea that's, well, it's pretty simple, but also really profound. What if, when it comes to mental health, we've been asking all the wrong questions? What if, instead of asking the kudu to track itself, we learned how to read the signs it leaves behind?
So let's start with a question you've probably heard before, maybe even been asked yourself. It's said countless times a day in clinics all over the world. And on the surface, it seems harmless enough, right? Simple, objective, a nice, neat little piece of data.
But I want you to really think about what this question does. You're asking a person who might be feeling completely lost, totally overwhelmed, maybe their whole sense of self is just dissolving, and you're asking them to step outside of that raw, chaotic experience and report on it like some kind of detached scientist. You're forcing them to collapse an entire universe of feeling into one single digit. Now let's flip that completely on its head. Think about a totally different way of knowing. A master tracker in the Kalahari. They don't walk up to a kudu and hand it a questionnaire. Of course not. Instead, they read the signs. They see the hoof prints, the disturbed sand, the way a branch is broken. In their mind, they almost become the animal to understand its journey, to feel its path.
And that really brings us to the heart of it, doesn't it? Why does so much of modern psychiatry keep insisting on asking the kudu to track itself, when this other, more ancient and intuitive way of knowing has always been right there?
Okay, so let's dig into the first big problem here, what the source material calls the legibility trap. This is all about our obsession with making messy, complex human experiences neat and easy to read on a chart.
And it all starts with this one concept, reification. Now, it sounds like a big academic word, but the idea is actually pretty straightforward. It's what happens when we take something that's alive and fluid and constantly changing, like human distress, and we try to nail it down. We try to turn it into a static, manageable thing, like a diagnosis or a score on a form.
But here's the catch. This whole translation process, it is not a one-way street. The person being assessed knows they're being translated. And people are smart, right? We're incredibly adaptive. We quickly learn the language of whatever system we're in, and we start to perform for it. We give the system the kind of legible answers it's looking for.
And here's exactly how that performance gets created. It's like a four-step dance. First, you have a real, raw, in-your-body feeling of distress. Then, the system comes along and demands a simple answer, a number, a neat little box to check. So what do? Step 3, you learn how to translate your huge, messy experience into that tiny format. And the final step? The system reads your performance and thinks it's looking at pure objective data. The real lived experience? It's been completely lost in translation.
So if that's the trap we're trying to avoid, what's the way out? Well, let's explore the alternative, what the source calls our native way of knowing. That tracker's mindset that, believe it or not, we are all born with.
Just imagine this for a second. You walk into a forest. You're not trying to do anything special, but something shifts, right? Your breathing might get a little deeper. Your shoulders might drop. For a moment, you are just in it. You're not analyzing it, you're experiencing it. That state of total absorption is what the famous psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi called flow.
And this way of knowing, this embodied, participatory thing, it's not some exotic, mystical skill. It is our factory setting. It's our basic human operating system. It's how a mother just knows the difference between her baby's "I'm hungry" cry and the "I'm tired" cry. It's how an experienced nurse can walk onto a ward and just sense that something is off with a patient, often long before the machines start beeping.
And what's so cool is that this ancient way of knowing is now getting some serious validation from cutting-edge science. There was this landmark study in the Lancet Psychiatry that just blew the doors off the old way of thinking. It showed that delusions aren't just random brain glitches or some kind of thinking error. No, they often follow a deeply meaningful, embodied logic. The researchers found these incredible patterns. For example, a visceral, gut-level bodily feeling of shame can actually crystallize into the belief that you're being watched or followed. Or that overwhelming, full-body sensation of awe. That can become a solid belief that you've been chosen for some kind of cosmic mission. It makes a strange kind of perfect sense when you trace it all the way back to the body.
So, if the old diagnostic map isn't getting us where we need to go, what does a new map even look like? This brings us to a really radical way to reframe these mental states. It's an idea that focuses less on the fire itself and more on the hearth that's supposed to contain it.
And this is the absolute core of the idea. An intense mental state is like a fire.
Now, if you have a strong container for that fire, a hearth built out of support, safety, and human connection, what the Source calls grace, that fire can be a breakthrough. It can be transformative. But you take that exact same fire and put it in a situation with no container, with isolation and instability, and it becomes a destructive breakdown. The context, the container, that changes everything.
And look, this isn't just a nice theory. They're actually doing this. A pioneering program in Finland called Open Dialogue puts this into practice. And by focusing on creating exactly this kind of intensive, relational container, they've achieved just jaw-dropping results. A staggering 83% of patients in acute psychosis were able to return to work or their studies.
But wait, here's the part that really gets you. It was achieved while only a third of those patients ever needed antipsychotic medication. Just let that sink in. That is a world away from standard care. And it strongly suggests that the most powerful intervention wasn't a pill, it was the human container of support and understanding.
So where does this all leave us? What's the way forward from here? How do we actually start to put this into practice and shift from a system that measures to one that truly reads the signs?
The call to action is a profound one, especially for clinicians. It's about a fundamental shift. A shift away from depending on self-report questionnaires and toward developing our own observational skills. It means learning to read the room, to sense the emotional atmosphere, and to trust that embodied data before we ever open the checklist.
And the ultimate skill here isn't about choosing one or the other. It's about learning to oscillate. It's the ability to move fluidly between these two states, to step into the other person's world, to understand it from the inside, like the tracker becoming the Kudu, and then to step back out again to see the larger pattern, to be the tracker.
And so we're left with this final provocative question. And it's a challenge not just for clinicians, but for any of us who seek to truly understand another person. Are we willing to do the hard work of reading the spore? Or will we keep taking the easy path and just keep asking the Kudu to track itself?